to Camp Okayest, powered by X2 Power. Of course, X2 batteries, X2 Power batteries, anyway, available at Batteries Plus stores. They are the ultimate in the outdoors. Amazing power. Like, they've got great Bluetooth technology on them. And I know if you missed the show, we talked with Sean Budiak of X2 Power back a couple of weeks ago, and just how lithium power technology can really help you in the outdoors, and just how great the service is at a place like Batteries Plus, whether it's their X2 Power lithium batteries or just their old standard, like, the blue tops that are absolutely awesome as your main boat motors and stuff. They can charge you up anyway. They've got some great devices that are awesome for camping, tailgating. And go check them out, x2power.com. But we are here another week. We've survived, I don't know if it's 6, 7. I lose count. I suck at calendars. I suck at counting. I'm good at maybe one or two things. Fishing, I'm mediocre at, even though I do that all the time. But joined this week by another one of our Okayest podcast network hosts, OK Podcast show, the Western Territories podcast. Levi, is it Kary?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure people screw that up all the time, and I'm really good.
Hey, man, growing up wrestling, getting your name called out, I've heard it all. It'd be surprising how bad people can screw it up.
So I wanted to have you on this week because, well, first off, obviously you Western Territories podcast, you talk a lot about hunting out west, and I feel it's something that a lot of people across the country, specifically if you don't live out west, I feel they kind of romanticize the thought of hunting out west. And I think there's a lot we can talk about with just kind of what it's like and what to expect and just how you got into it and, your process of learning. And I also wanted to give you a chance at redemption because a couple of weeks ago, I was on Okayest Hunter podcast, and you had jumped in the comments that day. I was wearing my Tony Bourdain shirt, and you didn't know who Tony Bourdain was. And I was like, yo, you don't know Tony, you're not allowed at camp.
I knew who he was. I just thought I'd poke a little bit of fun. I was like, hey, is that a Jeffrey Epstein shirt?
Sadly,
I'm glad to see I struck a chord.
Once you said that specific photo on the shirt, I was like, oh shit, I could see that a little bit. That's
right?
Not good. Him and Tony are two completely different individuals in a lot of ways. Let's never confuse them.
Yeah, but just that right kind of black and white kind of color of picture that you had on that shirt, it just definitely kind of gave that little bit of a vibe of almost like that black and white mugshot that Jeffrey Epstein had.
So I continue my constant reaching out into Okayest Podcast Network hosts to get them on the show. Greg Tubbs from Okayest Fisher's been on now twice. He's the first repeat guest because I suck at calendars. He saved my ass last week, but I think we had a really great conversation about access, and we talked a lot about actually some of the corner crossing stuff, which I know you're very familiar with being out west.
Yeah.
So we touched a lot on that stuff, and we'll get way more in depth into that, I'm sure, in conversations. I'll get some of the guys from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the BHA, on here, which they know a hell of a lot more than any of the rest of us about those things.
Right.
But if you didn't hear that conversation, I think there's a lot of good stuff in that last week with Tubbs. So go check that out. Again, we are everywhere that you can possibly listen to a podcast. Also, obviously, this is a YouTube stream, so if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it. Again, eventually, the goal is we want this to be a full live stream YouTube show. But in order to live stream it, we've got to get to 1,000 subscribers. So we need you to do your part. If you enjoy the content, you enjoy this, or hell that you just want to have a cool place to hang out on Thursday nights, go ahead and give us a subscribe so we can get to that count as fast as we can. We can make this a super live thing. And of course, don't forget you can follow us on all socials. We are at Camp Okayest. There's all kinds of randomness that you will find on there. Usually it's a lot of me sharing my shit that's involved with fishing and tournaments, because that's kind of my
that's
main
your deal.
role. Yeah, well, in the whole point of Camp Okayest, as we talk about every show, is it's just a place where we sit around and we shoot the bull. We hang out like you would with friends and family around a bonfire, around the tailgate, wherever it is that you gather and you tell stories and just chit chat with friends and family. And that's what we've done, and it's what we will always do here.
Mm-hmm.
But me as a person, I love bow hunting, and I'm an adult onset bow hunter, and I love doing that in the fall. But I fish a ton. That is my bread and butter. Kayak fishing is my thing. I fish tournaments from it. It's one of my revenue sources, so to speak. I've got a separate YouTube channel all dedicated about my kayak fishing and that whole journey and everything there. So I'm doing 2 YouTube channels now, a podcast. Shit,
I get
life
it.
is busy. Like,
I get it, man. I too wear a lot of different hats. I mean, my normal job, I'm a water operator, so I give people clean drinking water. I'm a volunteer fireman for the past 13 years. I'm a waterfowl. Thank you. I'm a waterfowl hunting guide. I'm an ambassador for the Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I mean, you name it, dude. I probably have worn the hat. So
isn't that
I get it.
Isn't that a story, Levi, of all of us today? Like, gone are the days that you, let's say, graduate high school, you get a job, and you just work for that one company for
And that's
20,
it.
30 years. You get your shitty Rolex, and you retire. Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I had a friend say to me a while back, like, just so, again, you and I, like, don't know each other necessarily. Whoa.
Hey, I figured something out.
I was like, that or the Labatt is hitting me in a strange way. And I feel Levi moving. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, he rotated the camera and he went sideways and changed, and now he is straight, as you can see on the video stream. Anyway.
Yeah, fill up the screen.
I've
that's a fat joke to myself, but
hey, we're all fat guys at heart, enjoy food. It is what it is. I forget what I was saying. A friend was going on and saying about how I have, really changed careers. I spent the last 20 years in one career, and that was in broadcasting and in media. And I got sick of that life and got tired of all the stress. And now I'm just kind of doing my own thing, writing my own ship. And I've got, it's like a couple different gigs all together. It literally comes out to the same money, and it's just a couple different smaller things. And they said that's the way that work is going. Most people are going to do what you do going forward. Is you're not going to have one full-time job. Everyone's going to have 2 part-time jobs, or because it's not about necessarily a career anymore. It's just about earning money to live life. And that's the biggest change that I put forth. And when I made this change over a year ago, was I no longer live to work. I just work to live.
Work to live. Yep, 100%.
Do the shit that I like.
I grew up hearing that from my dad. So, I never wanted to just live a dead end job ever. I just wanted to take his advice, even though I was pissed off that he wouldn't let me work in his body shop and grow up in the trade that, I'd seen him doing my whole life. And, and then he went behind my back and let my brother work for him. So whatever. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate that. But
he saw more and didn't want you to make the same mistakes that he made. I feel
that's what I'm going to go with. My mind was a little bit better than my younger brothers, and my body is better than my younger brothers. So he didn't want to ruin mine. He would just trash my brother. So that's the way it went. So shout out, Cole. I'm going to tag you in this now.
So where exactly did you grow up, Levi?
I grew up right where I'm at, Powell, Wyoming, Northwest Wyoming. I'm about an hour and a half outside of Yellowstone. I mean, I am right in what they call the Bighorn Basin. So I'm an hour-ish away from the Bighorn Mountains, and I'm an hour-ish away from the North Fork, the Beartooth Mountains, the Absaroka Wilderness. I mean, there's plenty of stuff for me to go play around in. I can go mess around in the sagebrush flats and rolling hills, or I can go up to the Snow Peak Mountains and have snowball fights in July and August. It's a very diverse kind of ecosystem that I'm smack dab in the middle of, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Nice little small town that I get to raise my family in. And I've got 34 other guys down at the fire department that'll watch my family's back and, kind of whisper in my ear if something's going wrong and the girls aren't doing something they should be doing. So, yeah.
So cool. So you just straight grew up with hunting and all that out west.
Yeah, I did. I grew up hunting out west. Actually, my dad didn't even allow me to go out with him until I was like 11 when I went out on my first backcountry horse riding trip and stuff. And he just wanted me to make sure that I had grown up to handle our rough country that we have out here. I know other families do it differently, but I'm really glad that I waited that long, because that very first trip we saw 12 different grizzly bears that very first trip. And the very first one that we came up on, we're riding a cliff edge, and came right up off that cliff, and I mean a cliff, and he popped out right next to us on the horse trail. He was maybe 15 yards away, and young 10-year-old kid, I'm fumbling for my bear spray, and the guy that we were with, my dad and I were with, he was an outfitter at the time, and he just yelled at me, "Levi, don't even think about it. Don't you spray that bear spray on top of my horse," because I was riding his horse, and I was like kind of looking at him like, there's a bear right there. What else do you want me to do? Like, that's all I've been taught. Pull your bear spray, get ready.
Right.
I mean, you're close enough. And then he goes, "What direction is the wind blowing?" I mean, just calm as ever. And we're
shit.
10. I mean, we're not very far from this bear, just calm as ever. And what direction's that wind blowing? Right in my face. He goes, "And that bear spray is going to go right in that horse's nose and eyes, and you're going to be on a rodeo, and it ain't going to turn out good." I'm like, okay. So that's kind of my breaking in point of getting into that backcountry Western style living. And it was given by, a calm, cool, and collected, experienced guy that just, had ice running through his veins. So he'd been there, seen that. That's for sure.
Had to think of those little things, those little details. Yeah, that's amazing. By the way, I'm glad you brought up the story, because the beverage of choice for this evening, you can see on the YouTube stream, is the Redwood Empire Grizzly Beast.
Very perfect.
West. They're bottled
very fitting.
So we're gonna. Oh, that's the greatest sound in the world.
There you go.
That's what we're tapping tonight. We've had a different bottle of bourbon every week on the show. I think one week we had a bottle of tequila.
Ooh, tequila's not good for me, man. It makes me want to punch babies. It's just not a good thing.
Depends on the type of tequila. Good tequila is life changing, and I believe that
right.
My buddy John Resnick and I, we were talking about, we did a fishing trip to Door County, Wisconsin, which I called smallmouth capital of the world, and we kind of broke down how we went about that fishing trip, and we're talking about just a bunch of fishing stuff on the show. And I've gotten him into tequila, so I had to have tequila on that show. But otherwise, so Redwood Empire Grizzly Beast in honor of my grizzly bear not spraying pal out west.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of a grizzly aficionado, if you will, but I don't mean to be one.
Do you encounter them often?
Oh yeah, tons, all the time. Yeah, almost every weekend that I go out. Like you're bound to run into a grizzly. I mean, we're in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, the hotbed of grizzly activity. That's where it's at. And honestly, we've been pushing for years to kind of manage grizzly bears. They have more than exceeded their threshold and their target numbers and stuff like that. But now it's turned into that quote unquote ballot box kind of ecology and biology, and we're fighting that good fight, I guess. And now we're seeing bears in places they haven't been in 150 years. And it's just crazy. I mean, actually, the Bighorn Mountains, they've talked about there's never, ever been grizzlies. And this year, the Game and Fish is saying, hey, they're here, they're killing cattle, they're doing this. I mean, they've never, ever been there. They've been around it, but never on the actual mountain. And I think that we need to take it as a victory, because that species has came back. We do need them on the landscape. They just need managed in the proper way. And I'm a member of the American Bear Foundation. This is something that we push forward to. I mean, we really want it to be biology based, and the science is there. I mean, just flat out. But we're talking among hunters and fishermen and other outdoorsmen. I mean, we're beating on that normal drum that everybody hears. So I don't want to, beat a dead horse on it. But it's the truth. For those that aren't out west seeing it, it needs to happen. And in fact, we did have a hunting season, probably 6 years ago, set aside for grizzly bears. The Game and Fish Commission had a season. They had a draw, all this stuff. And then a federal judge out of Missoula, who thinks that his spirit animal is an owl, overturned the ruling, and we've been fighting it ever since. But that's politics for you.
No, grizzly bear, you don't eat those, do you?
I mean, legally right now you can't, at least in the lower 48. But up in Alaska, yeah, man, bear meat's great.
I mean, black bear to me, I say all the time, is my favorite. Like, especially for making sausage, there is not a better creature than a bear because it's literally just a giant pig. It's a big dark meat pig. It makes the greatest sausage in the world.
Yeah, and the amount of fat that you have to render down and use for other things and inside of cooking as well. But I mean, grizzly bear is just another type of bear. It's the difference between a mule deer and a whitetail, essentially.
The diet they consume. And that's what I wonder, if the diet they consume tends to be more carnivorous than the omnivore, or really kind of, let's be real, black bears are kind of vegetarians. I mean, they will eat meat, but they eat far more vegetation, so to speak, that, I think that's what adds to make them tasting better. And any of us that have eaten diver ducks know.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Between a grain-fed mallard and
that fish-eating diver duck. Yeah. Oh, buddy, goldeneye.
You mix them in sausage, man. They make sausage. Decently.
I make jerky for my dog out of the goldeneye. That's what I do. Here you go, pup.
Oh, I could have been a professional goldeneye guide growing up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, up in the Door Peninsula, man. We could go out there and just crush the goldeneyes. I mean,
yeah.
Just to me, they're the most beautiful and most fun birds. It sucks.
They are a fun shooting bird.
Yeah,
the way they buzz the deck, and actually, I like decoying them in.
Oh yeah.
That's a blast. Like, I've had clients that have asked me, like, what, you decoy those in? Yeah, they're a duck. They'll decoy. And you'd be very surprised at how many clients I'm like that they're like, that's my duck. I'd almost rather shoot that than a mallard because I haven't. So we help people out with their chase for 41 on all of that and blah blah blah. But I mean, in Wyoming we can shoot five mallards and then like a bonus bird, or you can throw a mixed bag all together, but that's what we consider like a perfect limit, is like 5 greenhead drakes, and then you get to pick your bonus bird. So yeah, it's been fun and everything. So yeah, we won't go into the duck hunting stuff, but
well, I see the decoys hanging behind you, so my eyes are automatically always attracted to that, being that, when I mentioned that I was an adult onset bow hunter, the reason I never deer hunted, like, growing up, well, first of all, like, I didn't have, like, the whole family deer camp thing. It was not a part of, like, the culture. But deer hunting season is the exact same time as duck hunting here.
Right.
And if you give me a choice between just laying the smackdown on bluebills and golden eyes and duck hunting, I'm gonna do that instead of deer hunting. And that's just how I did it until, I now live where I am, and we can go into my history, but I'm just gonna say that you can listen to that at some other place. Now I've discovered bow hunting, and to get into that, so that's kind of how I spend a good portion of my fall when I finally decide I'm gonna, put the kayak away and hang up fishing for the year and wait for the ice to come in, which we never freaking had this year. I was on the ice once.
Really?
Once. And that was, again, something I, like, back in the day growing up, I'd be on the ice a ton. Like, at least 2 days a week I was out on the ice. Like, growing up in high school, I'd get done with school, and, Green Bay is right there on the Fox River, right? Again, I'll do the classic Wisconsin's.
Yeah.
I grew up right here. This is the Door Peninsula, and the Fox River runs, right there. So like, we'd hit the Fox River and go fish walleyes after school, like, every night. My ice fish stuff sat in the back of my 1994 Chevy S10 Blazer. And we'd go down and exactly. We'd hit the ice and we'd catch walleyes every single night. That's what we did growing up. And so it's part of me. But so having winter like we had here in Wisconsin, I don't know how it was out west for you guys, but like our winter consisted of, we got a little snow like right around Halloween, and it was just enough to like cover the ground. And it melted, but it was just cold enough. We were like, well, I'm not mowing the lawn anymore, type thing. And then, like, beginning of January, we had 1 week where it frickin' dumped, I don't know, almost 3 feet of snow. And then the very next week, it was below 0 for an entire week. And then we lived in purgatory until now. It was the weird ass in between. We got no snow. We got a little bit of rain here and there. It was like just above, it was around 40 every day. Like, it was the weirdest winter.
It was a goofy season for us as well, and it sounded like that, like talking to waterfowl hunters nationwide, that it screwed with everybody. I remember hunting in negative, what was it, negative 27-degree weather, and I was just banking on these clients from down south, like, throwing in the towel. Instead, they stole my Mr. Buddy heaters and huddled them around themselves, and I'm just freezing my ass off. So that, shame on me for thinking I was going to get an easy out. But I mean, you being a waterfowl hunter, I'm sure you've actually seen some of our stuff. There's a decoy company out there that ended up making our outfit very, very popular. We're kind of the ones that made the resurgence of skinny water duck hunting.
Okay.
That's the outfit that I am part of. My business partner, Kurt Johnson, and I, after premiering a couple of those videos on Dive Bomb Industries YouTube page.
Dive Bomb, man, great silhouette decoy.
Great, yeah, and I like their floaters too, man. I'm not like a diehard brand guy. Thank you, Dive Bomb, for making us what we are today. But I really, really believe in mixing all sorts of different brands of decoys.
Hell yes,
because it makes your it makes your spread look that much more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And other people might argue with that, but that's in my professional, and I can say that now, which is stupid, but I can say my professional opinion, I have seen the difference and results of mixing up decoys. I've got Heydays, I've got AVNX, I've got Dive Bombs, I've got Tango Freeze, Dakotas. I've got them all thrown in together, and I'm only running a dozen to a dozen and a half decoys when I throw out my spread. But I want them all looking that different.
You're hunting more puddly stuff if you're throwing dozen and a half. I mean, divers, we're throwing out 12 dozen.
Oh, yeah. So like our river system is maybe at its widest point 60 yards wide, but what our bread and butter is that small warm water. You're maybe 6 feet wide at widest, and you're smacking them down, in your face, like
tight,
in your face
stuff. Like I love tight, close quarter woody hunting. Damn, that's so fun.
It's like woody hunting with mallards.
Yeah,
is what it is, dude. I've had feet scraping my head. Like it is stupid. But that's my waterfowl talk, I guess.
All right, so we touched the waterfowl. That's another topic for another show, another idea. Like we want to talk about hunting out west.
Yeah,
because like I said, it's something I feel a lot of people romanticize, so to speak. If you don't grow up with, we'll just say the Rocky Mountains and that whole experience of hunting the Rocky Mountains and Western hunting, because it is different than whitetail hunting in the Midwest or in Pennsylvania or down south or wherever. A lot of people in those areas, they want to go do that.
Right.
Being someone that grew up with it, like, is there some piece of advice or a couple pieces of advice that you'd give to someone that's considering it, like the things that they should think about before even starting to really plan or book a trip that they should be aware of, to be like, is this really what I want to do? Can I actually handle this?
First thing I'd do is start buying points like 5-10 years ago. Like, honestly, build those points up right away. Point creep it's a bitch. It's a real thing. And get after it. There are those states like Colorado where you can do over the counter, but those tags are slowly diminishing by and stuff like that. Idaho, you might be able to get in. Montana is nice, but you're going to spend more money. To an extent, you can be guaranteed to draw an elk deer or an elk deer combo tag every other year. But that's to go hunt their general units, not their trophy or limited draw units. So like I said, first thing you do, even if you're having an inkling of that idea, is go select some states and go start buying points. That's what you're going to need to do. Go buy some points, and then you can figure out the riffraff a little bit later. You can start looking into, okay, what part of the state do I want to be in? You can start doing your research by listening to all these other podcasts, my podcast. You can start talking to different consultants and stuff like that. I mean, we've got the internet at the finger of our tips right now, or tips of our fingers now, where you can figure it all out. But I mean, other than that, start stacking up some gear, because I mean, even July and August in Wyoming and Montana and Idaho, I mean, all these mountain states, you can go from having 80, 90 degree days to it's snowing and it's 30, and you're starting to freeze your butt off. You do need a plethora of gear, and you've got to have it with you. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable or not really be able to make it. And start getting yourself used to looking at topography, like actual topography on a map, and figuring that out. A lot of people, and this isn't me picking on anybody, but a lot of guys that I've ran into from Wisconsin, there's this weird connection, I will say, between Wisconsin and Wyoming. It's weird. There just seems to be this weird connection between Wisconsin and Wyoming, and all these Wisconsin guys I ran into, they've had that issue of, wow, these mountains are way bigger than we thought.
So we don't have that like here. Like
right.
The biggest mountain we have is Rib Mountain in Wausau, the center of the state. Like, we're not a very mountainous state at all.
Right.
Like, we've got some good rolling hills and some bluffs and some like the driftless region, that like whole southwest corner of the state and up along the Mississippi River. It's gorgeous, and there's big, like I said, big bluffs. There's big rolling hills, but it is not mountainous by any range. Like the closest we're gonna have to anything mountainous is, I'll use the most famous in Wisconsin, Buffalo County. That is the county known for just giant monster bucks.
Yep.
I've got actually a really good friend of mine that has a place in Buffalo County. My brother actually hunts out there too a lot, and he's been like, "Oh, this is like nothing." I'm like, but that's nothing like out west. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's some big ass hills, some steep incline, but I'm gonna tell you, and I've not done the out west thing. I just know that is not a freaking mountain. Like, I've seen some mountains. that is not a mountain.
Yeah. And another thing too is gauging distance can be huge. I've seen guys, I mean, chucking lead at elk that were, 1,200 yards out, and I went over to them and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "We're shooting at those elk. They're like 500 yards out." I'm like, "No."
Do they not carry a rangefinder?
Well, I don't know. I didn't ask that much. I just, hey, that's a lot further out than you think. I mean, an elk, honestly, and you guys have elk in Wisconsin and stuff like that, but they're very few and far between. But
right, we're a draw. Like 5 elk a year get to get harvested in the state of Wisconsin.
Right, but I mean, you might come across and see them from time to time, but I mean, they're a lot bigger than a deer. Like, a lot bigger.
It's funny, like every year, like our Department of Natural Resources, puts out in their their book of regulations, whatever, of it's like the don't shoot an elk, and they show the difference. And I don't know how you could confuse them, but then again, there's the slow elk out west that people confuse every year too.
I've gone here. Here's a Western story for you. We, like a lot of places, have intermittent like game check stations, right? You roll down, you have to mandatorily stop. And we're coming back from elk hunting one time, and we're driving down the mountain, and here's one of the typical routine pullouts. And okay, you pull out, and we have the game warden checking our stuff, and I kind of look over to this truck, and I'm a young kid, I think I'm maybe 13 or 14, and I see this leg sticking up out of the bed of this pickup, and this guy is just grinning from ear to ear. I won't say where he's from, but he's just grinning ear to ear, happy as can be, pig and shit. And I'm looking over at my dad, and he looks over at me and grins. I was like, I don't think that's an elk, Dad. And he goes, "Yeah, I don't think so. Let's hop out and see what's going on." The individual, no, worse. The individual had shot, quartered, and packed out a U.S. Forest Service mule. And I mean, dude, the guy was elated, super happy. There was a brand on its hip that said U.S. like still on. I mean, flesh on everything.
I am rarely speechless. This moment, I don't have words.
I'm telling you, man, it happened, and I'm like, I mean, to me, the first thing would have been like, I can get it because it was like kind of that buckskin color. I get that, but it's wearing shoes. It's got a closed hoof, not not a split hoof.
Right.
It's got a brand on it that says US, but like apparently the guy was like, well, I just thought you guys might brand your elk, or it was like one of them collared elk but didn't have a collar, and your guys' way of tracking things and this and that, and because he had a cow elk tag, so I mean it, didn't have horns, so I mean there's that.
All right.
But anyway, things happen, and that's why my horses have orange on them for that
I've never heard
reason.
of a mule. I've heard of, again, the cows, the slow elk. I've heard of the cow situation, but never a mule.
Yeah, man, it happened. It happened. I mean, at that age, I was like, "What am I watching? Holy crap!" Oh, and but yeah, so that's one of my my stories of like, look at what you're shooting at. Like, I get so excited. Like, if you're not getting excited about hunting, hang it up. Be done with it. I get arguably a little too excited, but I don't think I get that excited to mistake a mule for an elk. But
Isn't that the first rule of like hunter safety? Isn't it know your target?
Know your target. yeah, pretty dang much. But I don't know. I've been in situations where you're kind of questioning things before too. So I don't know. I like to play both sides of the cards that way, but
I mean, I get people out of their element doing something that they're not familiar with. Like I can see that, like you said, the mistake.
You're in totally different terrain.
Yeah, like I get it, but that's again part of the responsibility of being a responsible outdoors person is teaching yourself about learning about some of those things first, getting to know it. And that's why I wanted to have you on to talk about some of these things, because I feel like there is a lot of mistakes and a lot of people get themselves in deep water thinking like, oh, I can just go out west and hunt, or like getting this dream of wanting to do it. And like, I'm gathering already what we've said. It's not like we can just get together, buddies. We're sitting around having a couple of beers around for like, shit, let's go out to Montana this year. Like, this is like a 5 to 10 year process to even start to consider making that journey.
Well, and social media is really good in a tool in a way that you can lean on some people for some information. You can speed up this process a lot, to where I think it's doable in a 3-year span, like with certain places and certain, it depends on your pockets and stuff like that too. But like, I think it's very doable in a 3-year span if you're really putting that nose to the grindstone, doing your homework, figuring things out, talking to different people, talking to people in the region, calling up the game wardens, calling up the Forest Service, and figuring things out, doing your damn homework. That's what it really comes down to. But I'm kind of one of those guys that likes to fly by the seat of my pants too, so I get that aspect. So one of the things I like to recommend too is I like to hit the ground running and go hunting. Give yourself at least a day, if not 2 days, to just hang out in camp, drive around, do whatever, get acclimated to the elevation, because that's a big thing that'll knock the poop right out of you, is that elevation. I'm telling you. You guys think that you guys can drink down there in Wisconsin? You come up to this elevation, it's gonzo. Just saying. Elevation's a big deal.
We'll have to try it someday, I think. Maybe we'll put a test to that.
A dare's a dare, man.
It is funny, like other places,
get your bearings. Yeah, you can go on, but I was just saying mainly like get your bearings too. Figure out north, south, east, west, all that. Do your woodsmanship. But yeah,
that's
sorry.
Okay. No, like I'll relate it to like my side of tournament fishing. There's a lot of times where like I'm out in practice, I will spend more time just cruising around a lake, mapping, graphing, occasionally casting. I barely fish. I'm putting way more work into just getting acclimated to like what's happening where, trying to find some weed line, like just trying to get my brain wrapped around this new place.
Right.
And so like, yeah, like I can totally relate. That is a good tip for
You can only e-scout so damn much.
yeah.
But I mean, putting your boots on the ground, things are way different. I mean, I've grown up in this area, and there's places I look at like e-scouting, and I'm like, well, that looks weird. It just looks weird. I've grown up right there, but it looks way different than what it really is. And so that's where that boots on the ground actual research really helps out. If you can afford to come out, you know, summertime hunting season or whatever, a year in advance of your actual hunting trip, do it. I mean,
that's a good idea.
You know, it 100%. You know, and by all means, if there's listeners out there that are looking at Northwest Wyoming and stuff like that, hit me up. I'm an open book. I'm not one of those, you know, typical screw you out of stater guys, because and this is one of those things that grinds my gears, not to sound like Homer Simpson, but like it's totally different. You guys, and by you guys I mean out of staters as a whole, are a totally separate percentage of tags that are allocated for our area. Right. And recently Wyoming went from an 80-20 split to a 90-10 split. Right. So a 90%.
We're not taking your tags. We're not 100%.
We're not taking your tags.
Yeah, exactly. I think
there's all these people that say that, oh, these damn out-of-staters, they're coming in here and they're taking our tags and they're killing our animals.
No, they're coming here and putting their money in our economy. They're supporting our restaurants, our hotels, our whatever, our gas station, whatever it is. Like that.
Well, and just the tag price alone is, you know, you add a zero to ours.
Right.
So my elk tag is $64. You put a zero on the end, that's your price.
Right.
Just for the tag. That's not conservation. That's not gas. That's not fuel. That's not all the points that you took to build up to it. That's not, I mean, we can go on.
Right.
So to me, it's like, come on, guys, pull up your big boy pants. Let's do this. Let's help each other. And rather than being like the gruff asshole, help these guys out and help educate them, and then they're not killing your little tiny deer that are growing up, or they're killing every little fork-horned bull. Educate these guys, help each other out. We're all on the same damn team by the end of the day. We're all hunters. We're all trying to keep conservation. We're trying to keep this whole tradition going, because it's all under attack and everything. So same team, same players.
There's a lot more that are against us than are on the same team.
100%.
And that goes for any outdoor activity, sport, anything you do. There's always far more against you than are with you. And so that's why I agree. I'm the same as you, Levi. I'm not a gatekeeper at all about anything. I mean, I got
right.
like talk about fishing stuff. I'm an open book. I share everything between socials, YouTube, all that. And, you know, people be like, oh, you fish tournaments. Why would you share that? You know, you're giving away. I'm like, because I don't care. At the end of the day, you still got to find the fish. Whatever. I don't care.
Getting a little bit bad connection on my side. Sorry.
Me or you? Oop. Gotta love technology. Uh-oh. We may have lost Levi. Anyway, we'll wait for him to come back on. But yeah, I mean, as you guys have heard, you know, and I've talked about a lot on here, is not being a gatekeeper. And I love hearing Levi say that. It's more about support it. And I think that's a lesson that we all could take with us no matter what we do in any aspect of things. It's that if we help each other out, we're all stronger. You know what I mean? Like, by having that attitude, like Levi said, of all these out-of-staters, they come and kill our elk, or they do this or do that. Instead, look at it and help these people and teach these people. And then I think educating people to the way that you do things, or the way that you, being an example, I guess what I'm trying to say is being an example. He mentioned the story of the guy shooting the mule, which, again, still speechless of things. The fact that happened is because that was a person I think was just like not educated. And if you had someone locally to help, or, I mean, you probably could have done more research. I get that. But if we help others, it can make it easier. And communication period is like number one in everything. Is when you communicate with other people, you bump into people out in the woods, bump people on a lake, communicating, talking. Like that's something that's been very, brought up and very involved in, like I mentioned, tournament fishing. We literally had this last weekend, a big tournament for you. Welcome back, Levi.
Sorry, man, with that Wyoming internet, man.
Yeah, it's all right. I was just going on to talk about like communication with each other, and like when you bump into people in the woods or in the water, you communicate. And an example I was using was this past weekend. We had a tournament that was a roadrunner style. So there's 2 different lakes technically 4, but really 2 lakes that we could choose from as anglers. And I knew like a lot of the field was going to be a one specific lake. It was going to be one of those lakes where just like you're all casting at docks, or you're all casting the same. Like we're going to be playing bumper boats to each other, and I didn't want to do it. I found some fish on a different lake. They're smaller, but I knew I was going to get a limit. Like we'll go from there. And when we had our captains or our pre-tournament meeting, they basically said like, no, we're going to be crowded. You're going to be on top of each other. You have to communicate. Don't get pissed that someone's rolling up on your spot, rolling up on you. Talk about it. You're going to fish behind someone. You're going to fish in front of someone. Just be like, hey, I'm going to go this way. Which way are you going? Or, and I was using that and talking about the fact of like what you said about, bumping into people in the woods and teaching them, instead of having the attitude of, oh, you're here messing with my stuff. Talk to them and communicate. And I think that makes everyone better. Like I've been at the trailhead to head out to go bow hunting, and I've bumped into like another guy and be like, hey, where are you planning to go?
100%.
If he says he's going to an area that I was planning on going, I got something else that I'll go and check out. Even if it's like I don't think it's the better spot, I'll gladly give that to them. If that was what they were planning on, I'm cool. You go. Like let's communicate with each other and like plan that we're apart. And it's always been a great experience. And I just can't understand the people that don't share that same attitude and mentality to help each other out. Like we're not each other's enemies. Damn it, we're all on the same team. Help each other.
And I've had that instance to where I've ran into somebody running out of state, and they're like, hey, we're going to go do this. What do you think? And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. In fact, that's what I was going to do. But instead, hey, you do what you were talking about. You've put in the work and you figured that out. I'm going to, and then I tell them what the hell I'm going to do. I'm going to come this way. That way I can push elk to you, or you can push elk to me. And, whoever has the better luck has the better luck.
Right.
But then also, I don't know if this is the first responder in me or what, but I know where those people are at, and I know the situations they can get into, and I can go check in on them. I find out, I ask them, where's your camp at? Yeah. Oh, it's over by this place and in this drainage and over here. Okay, I know right where you're at. I'll come check on you at some point. We're over here. You guys get something down? Look me up. I've got some really fat horses that need used, over here. You guys get something down? Look me up. I'll call a buddy. They'll bring them up the mountain. It's just how it is. Let's help each other out. I don't mean to sound like a damn hippie about it, but like we're all in this together. And help each other out, earn some karma. That's how it goes. I don't know. I get competitive just like the next guy, but ultimately, I mean, this could be that person's once in a lifetime hunt, and you get to do it every year.
I always ask myself if the shoe were on the other foot. I think that's kind of what rules the mentality. Like another example I'll give. This was a couple years ago when we mentioned ice fishing, right? Being on the ice. I was ice fishing one day, and I'm sitting up on this this really awesome little point, and I've got basically 3 spots I'm hopping from, and just running this milk jug run in these 3 specific spots, and I'm just cleaning house on bluegills and just having fun. And I noticed there's a dad and 2 kids that are a little ways away from me, and I know they're there, and I'm packing up, I'm done. And so as I walk past them, and they're kind of like, "Hey, you guys doing?" Oh, just sitting here, not really anything yet. And I could have been like, "Oh, well, good luck," and kept walking. I said, "No, tell you what, come on, let me show you something."
What are you running? What kind of lure? How depth? I mean, all of that stuff, right?
I literally walked them over. I said, "Come here, let me show you something." I said, "Okay, you go from this hole to this. These are the 3 you can run, go back, this and that." I said, "Come over here and fish here. This is a great spot. They're all roaming. This is where." I literally showed them everything and put them on it. I don't know. I never communicated with them ever again in life. I have no clue whether that was the greatest day of fishing for those kids ever. Whether they enjoy what, it doesn't matter. But I was again, a dad and kids. I now being a dad myself too, that.
Yeah.
Adds to it. At the time, also, I was not a dad at the time. So even now, I'm even more inclined to be hey, these kids are out here, like they should have fun. Like when I take my little guy out with me a couple weeks ago, he's like, "Hey Dad, can we go fishing this week?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So
Yeah,
like,
by all means.
right, I strip my kayak down. I can put him in like behind me, like in a seat behind me in my kayak. He loved it because like I still had like my graphs up in front of me, so I had like live scope and stuff. We're out there and he's watching fish swim, and like we found like a crib and they're swimming out of a crib, and he thought that was so cool. It was a little cold that day, so he like lasted an hour. But I'm like, he's like, "I'm ready to go home, Dad." I'm like, "Okay, let's go," and we're off the lake. Like I've never been the person that's like, "Oh no, we're out here, we're sticking it out." Like no, like it's about them. If they have a miserable experience and they hate it, they're never going to do it again. So like make it as fun and enjoyable for them. When they're done, they're done. When you're taking a kid hunting or fishing, it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll push the envelope just a touch. I mean, not very much. Just
Right.
like, hey, like a little bit longer. I think we can hang it out. Like, come on, one last cast kind of thing.
I was doing that. I'll fish my way back. Dad's just gonna kind of fish his way back on some stuff that I see. And one place like, "Dad, why are you casting? We're supposed to be going back. We're going home." Like, okay, bud. Like that was my push, kind of just pushing, just seeing where we're at.
I tell you what, though, like the biggest deal, like for me, I found that out this year, taking my daughter turkey hunting. And you want to get a kid tough really quick, you stick them with another kid that's not their brother or sister. They get a lot tougher, way quicker. Like it was awesome. My business partner Kurt and I, we took our 2 daughters out turkey hunting, and we're trying to get them
coming in hot.
Yeah, 100%. And usually my daughter, she can be tough, but when it gets to being chilly and cold, like it can be in the spring woods and stuff, like I get it. Coming from somebody that like their first elk hunt caught hypothermia, like I get it. So when we had his daughter Raylyn and my daughter together, it was just so much more fun, so much more enjoyable. It wasn't like, I think I'm hungry. Dad, I'm hungry. Or I think I might be a little bit cold. I'm cold. Like it didn't matter. Like they were going to, I'm not going to ruin it for the other person and this and that. And it worked out great. Raylyn, my business partner, Kurt, his daughter got her first turkey. It was awesome. It was fantastic. And the cool part is that bird went in front of her. She couldn't get on the bird. Passes in front of my daughter. And I was like, okay, get ready. And Kimber was just about ready. Kimber's my daughter, was just about ready to get on it. And I was like, ugh, for a 410, like we're right on that edge. I was like, sis, let's hold off. And for some weird reason, that bird like spun around and went back over to Raylyn, his daughter, and she smoked it. Well, actually, first shot, she just like kind of like hobbled it up a little bit and it went to take off. And that little girl, I mean, these are 6-year-old kids. She picks up the side-by-side little 410, picks it up, pivots, and smokes it up on the follow up.
Instincts.
It was like that girl. And then she's freaking out. She's shaking. She's crying. I'm all excited. My daughter's, you could tell she was bummed at first, but then she like got over it instantly and was like, my friend got a bird. And then it was really on too. Cause then it was a competition like, well, she shot a Jake and I think I can shoot one of these Toms. And the whole dynamic was awesome. And then I'm the asshole and ended up shooting a Tom that my daughter couldn't shoot on. She went to shoot and couldn't pivot. So I ended up smoking it because I'm a jerk like that. I wasn't going to let that Tom walk away.
It's teamwork here. It's teamwork, daughter. We need to,
Oh, and then to add to the whole goofy story, because I always end up with some weird story, is she had been sitting on my lap and I had crossed my leg over my right leg over top of my left leg to boost her up just high enough that bipod could be the right elevation for her. Well, my right leg had fell like asleep, couldn't feel it anymore asleep. And I went to jump up and go run down that bird. My leg was nowhere in existence on my body. I just fell over and ate the dirt. And like my daughter's like, what's going on, Dad? And then Ray Lynn, who had already gotten her bird like the week before, was like, what's going on? And I'm like, so I picked myself back up and I'm trying to figure out where that bird ran, and I'm trying to stand up. Oh, dude. And then I looked down at my leg and I was stepping on my ankle. My foot is folded up underneath my ankle, and I look over at Kurt. I'm like, Kurt, I think I broke my leg. And he's like, what? I was like, dude, I broke my leg. I know. I don't know what happened. I broke my leg. I can't feel it. And so I hand Kurt my gun, and I'm like, you got to go make sure that bird's dead, because it was just up and over like a little drainage ditch kind of hill, so you couldn't see him anymore. And he's like, he grabs my gun and goes running off, and meanwhile I'm hobbling. It was just a shit show that you have with kids, but my daughter still just laughs her butt off to that. So I put that tail fan and that beard up in her room.
Love
and
it.
I did it while she was gone, and she walked in her room and she just comes running out. Dad, I love it. It's awesome. I was like, cool. Yes, win. Because I don't know, that there's just something about having daughters and stuff that I'm a little bit more nervous, I feel like, about getting them into hunting. Because, I mean, not being sexist or anything, but they're less apt to really get into that. So
I think that's changing though. Levi, I think it's changing
100%. And having another girl that she can go out and hunt with is going to put me loads above other people. You know, I feel like I think it's really helping, and it's awesome. And I don't know. It's walking a fine line as a parent. We always do that. We're walking that fine line. What's too much? What's not enough? And
they'll tell
we're all figuring it out.
Yeah, they'll tell us. Is my mentality, and I feel like the more that we do as people about not making an activity based on, we'll call it a sex, right?
Right.
Like, you're not thinking like, oh, the boys are going, like, it's like we're going fishing, or it's not boys are going to, like, it's never putting a sex on that, or never putting a prime example. Here's a great one that I'm going to tell you that I did. So I've got a 6-year-old son, right? Mommy goes to the spa, whatever, massage, nails done, whatever, this sort of thing. So he wanted to have a massage day at home, or he wanted to have a spa day. Sorry, and it was spa day. So we're supposed to relax, and we're gonna watch a movie, and have cucumbers in her eyes, we have her nails painted. So he wanted to paint Dad's nails, so he painted my fingernails.
Your fingernails?
He painted my damn fingernails. You know what?
I'll let my daughters paint my toenails, not my fingernails.
You know what? This is the thing.
Good on you. It's not me taking anything away.
Has your daughter ever done it though? Have you had nail polish on your fingernails?
Oh yeah, but I take it off before I go to work.
It's the worst feeling, isn't it?
I hate it, dude.
Oh, it's terrible.
I'm weird about that stuff, like cooking or anything. Like, I don't like that gooey gook on my hands. Like,
so, like,
yeah.
All right.
Even mechanicking, yeah. No.
So it dried, whatever, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's fun, it's goofy, and I have this I'm a personality that I'm shameless and I don't give a crap. And also I like to get people's reaction. So this is where this goes. So like,
I get that.
I was gonna take it off that night. And one thing got to the next, went to sleep, woke up the next morning. I'm like, shit, it's still on. I'm like, well, I'm not going to take it off now, whatever. So I go off, like my insurance job that I do. I actually am like a manager of an athletic club, in our area. And so I'm there, and like, someone's like, I'm like, whatever, painted fingernails, I don't care. But then I took it as like, oh, I'm going to let this be like, who's going to react to it and ask about it?
I'm going to make this a thing now.
Right. Because like, and I did have one older lady. She's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "What's what?" And she's like, "This." And she like touches my hand, which is like, well, first off, don't touch me. But okay, we're gonna let this one slide.
Oh, now we're really playing ball.
Right. And I'm like, what? Like, it's a little painting my nails, whatever. I go, is there a problem with that? She's like, well, I've never seen a boy with painted nails. I go,
yeah, I've never seen a grown man.
Is there a problem? It's just paint. Like, who cares? Be different if I dyed my hair pink. Does it matter? Like, who cares? Like, let's not.
Wait,
like,
you have hair? Like,
I do. I've got lots of hair.
No, not me.
Thick head of German hair here.
I'm German, but I'm bald as shit, man.
Must be a different region.
Yeah.
But like that goes on to my theory of just like not. I don't care, and I'm never going to put them on like only girls get their fingernails painted or whatever. Like, who the hell cares? You do whatever you want to do, and I think that the more we do things like that, girls will hunt, they will fish, and I think that will only help us as a community, as outdoors people. Is the more we can get people involved, and the more we make it about family, I think that's what's freaking awesome, because that's what I miss, and I hate to see. Like in Wisconsin, the whole deer camp thing was always such a big part of the culture. And I know it is in a lot of places. Everybody going to deer camp for opening day and this and that, and it's like, to me, like that's dying off, and it's not a thing as much anymore. You know what? I think the more we get our families involved, and families going to deer camp, or families are coming together at a camp, or like, I think that's how we revive it, and it's keeping the whole family unit involved. Like when I'm fishing tournaments, my wife is such a support system involved in it, and even my son, and they're a part of it. Any chance they can travel with me when I'm going somewhere, they do. Like we were gonna this year, but we decided to like pump the brakes on it for a segment. Next year for sure, we're gonna have an RV. We're gonna have a camper, like I'll tow behind my truck. So like they'll be able to travel with me. So like when I'm gonna go fish more national tournaments next year, and those involve more travel. And I hate being away from my family. They can come with me, and they can be a part of it. We can make it a family thing. And I think the more we can make the outdoors, hunting, fishing, whatever, a family thing, and not put only the boys do this and only the girls do this, it's only going to be better for us as outdoors people.
Well, and it'll afford you. So guys, we'll put it in this scope too. Guys that are listening on this too. If you're sitting there like, oh, well, I kind of got to hide this from my wife when I buy like this hunting gear, or I got to kind of, fib this on this hunting gear. If they're involved in it, it's going to be that much easier for you to spend the money on that shit, because they get it.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, you do need that. Or yeah, by all means get that. Like that's something I've been finding out, not just being open with my wife on how things work in the hunting world, because she didn't grow up in that, but like now she's seeing the value in raising our daughters in that our lifestyle is, she's like, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. Like building my Forerunner up to where I can take it out as basically our family side by side is, oh, all right, yeah, go ahead and buy that winch, or go ahead and buy those long johns. Get comfortable, get like nice things that last. It's going to make your life a lot easier the more people you get involved in your family. Like, I mean, yeah, there's always finances and all that stuff, but it'll be a lot easier for them to go, oh, okay, I understand why you think you need to spend the money on this brand new rifle, even though you've got 6. Yeah.
Right. The more you hide, the harder it's going to be. Like my wife grew up.
Oh, dude, I'm not good at hiding that shit.
So when we started dating, like my wife would fish a ton with me. Like I actually started fishing with her dad at the time, and like fishing with BFL stuff, like co-angler. He was boater, I was non-boater. We started doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And
nice.
So I know that she grew up in and around that world of having a dad who did some tournament fishing. So like me seeing now, like we'll spare all of the other details that go into the path we've got to today. But seeing the toll that lifestyle and trying to fish tournaments and all that put on the family, I was like, I'm not doing that to my family. And that's why I started down this path that I am a lot with like content creation and stuff like that, to the point where basically the whole YouTube channel and all the stuff I do around fishing is just to feed the beast. So the revenue that I make between Amazon, Google, like all these different income sources, it pays for my tournament entry fees. It pays for my stays. It pays for all my gear throughout a season. And I'm very careful with what I buy. And I mean, it's a legit business. Like I run it like a business, like a tight ship, and it doesn't affect the family's income.
Wait, you're making money?
Some people have to. Right. Not with Camp Okayest, but my other stuff. But like, it pays for those things, so that I don't have that toll on. To the point where, like, the fact that I do put that effort in every time, my wife, like, literally last weekend we were talking about it, and I was saying, like, I think next year I might switch to a new boat. Like, I might I might change manufacturers, go to a different kayak company, because like I don't have a contract with the one I work with right now. Like I've done a lot of stuff for them, but like I'm not contractually like having to use this boat. And I'm like,
you're not like obligated.
right. And I'm kind of thinking about some other stuff I might want to change that might make things easier and this and that. And I'm like, I might be doing it. She's like, well, like, is there a way that I can help you with that? Like, do we want, like, she was almost thinking like I want to do it today. And I was like, well, no, this is gonna be next year. And I'll
but that's good and supportive.
Right.
Hell yeah.
But that's my point, because I'm so open about everything, and because I've been so very open about what I do, even if it's my money, my fishing business money, doing what I do, that she is such an invested part. She wants to be supportive in any way. She's like, if there's a way that I can, like, she always calls herself like, I'm the dreamer and she's the facilitator of dreams. So she's like, well, if I can facilitate making this happen, like, let me know what I can do.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
That wouldn't be a thing if I weren't so open with her. So like you saying, being open in the relationship, it does make it easier.
It creates that team dynamic.
Yes.
That a marriage should be.
Right.
Yeah. This is turning into more of like a how to hunt out west, more of like a marriage advice thing.
Hey, welcome to Camp Okayest, man. Like it always is. It's like I've said,
dude,
I'm not like a pro. This is like we're just having conversations and we're just chilling and chit chatting.
Dude, I live in the rabbit holes. Like that's what I do. We dive down them. So yeah, I'm there with you.
A little that adult what is it? Adult ADHD situation?
Dude, I've grown up with ADHD. Like yeah. Booze actually makes it easier.
Yeah, it just takes away. By the way, is that Rocky Mountains? Look at that. Pride of the Rocky Mountains for you.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm a Coors guy. I don't have my shotgun here. It's in my gun cabinet. Back to the whole shotgun thing, another rabbit hole. I've got a 12 gauge shotgun that's Cerakoted Coors Banquet. I'll have to send you pictures of it. It is like done to the nine. It is crazy. Like instead of, on the shotgun it says 12 gauge, it says like 12 fluid gauge on it.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Dude, it is like cheeseball deluxe. But so my kind of rounding back to the beginning of all this on the waterfowl side of things, with our skinny water, with us guiding, we don't actually allow anything like 12 gauge and up. It's all sub gauges only. So my 20
close, a 20 gauge is plenty.
100%. So my
shoot 3.5 inch out of a 12 gauge. You don't need to. Don't.
I used to be that guy. I used to shoot a 3.5 because they didn't make a 4. Like
right, and you don't need to.
I was that guy.
A 3-inch number 2 patterns better than any 3.5 inch anything. Period. I said it. As an experienced waterfowler,
and I'm a
number 2 will pattern better than anything.
See, and I'm a number 4. I'm a number 4 guy. Like for ducks,
right? Not shooting diver ducks. 4s, 5s are good, but like 2s and 3s are required for diver ducks.
Yeah, and even on our divers, as close as they are, you're getting by with 4s. Like they're in your kitchen. Like
ours are so full of fat and so fatty that you just.
I shot a common goldeneye last year that was bigger than a mature mallard. Like
I believe
that sucker was the size of like a cackler. Yeah, that thing was huge. Anyway, but like
it's fat is a 1/4 inch thick.
Oh, dude, yeah, that thing was butterball.
Yeah.
But like my 20 gauge is going to be Cerakoted Coors Light because my 12 gauge is Coors Banquet, and then I've got a 28 gauge. It's going to be what is it? It's going to be a Coors Seltzer. That's what I'm going to make up a Coors Seltzer, and then my 410 is going to be a Coors NA. So it's a dream. It's one of them cheeseball things that I do. That's just me being quirky and stuff. But
you still hunt with these guns, right? They're all
100%. Oh yeah, yeah.
Another proof. You don't have to have the fanciest camo pattern. You can have whatever you have. Just use it, make it work. They're not staring at the gun. If they can see the gun, they should be dead anyway. Yeah,
kill them. And if you don't, when I say kill them, I'm gonna really make fun of you. really make fun of you. But I mean, I don't know what you got for time or anything like that. I got plenty of time. I got all night. we can dive back into the actual Western side of things and stuff.
We can put a pin in it and circle back to it too. Like that's always a good thing. We can circle back and be a little more detailed about planning Western hunts. But I think, like, honestly, like, just talking about kind of your experience and getting into it and just those little tidbits of advice of, like, it takes time to plan out, and in dealing with the elevation, getting acclimated to things. I think those are the great key tips at the end of the day that people don't think about that is required. It's not, like, I've always said, like, like, I win the lottery, how will it? I'm just like, retire, buy a boat, and I'll just sail the Caribbean. My wife's like, I kind of think, like, you, like, romanticize a little too much. Like, she knows I could do it and I would, but also, at the end of the day, you sit back and like, actually, am I a little bit? Like, that's a shit ton of work. Things are gonna break. I'm gonna have to fix shit in the middle of the damn ocean, like, hundreds of miles from things at times. Like, am I really ready for that? Maybe not right now. Maybe I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, and at the age that you will be, like, all this stuff, like, there's so much to it. And that's something that I will say.
Fitness is the other part that I think people don't take into account and think about. You have to start making sure you are physically fit to handle the elevation, to handle the work.
Do it now.
Yeah.
We're not like, I don't know, not to be all, dark and dreary and stuff, but we're not promised tomorrow. Get this shit going now. Like, do it now. Start taking 5-10%, whatever your finances can be. Talk to your spouse about it, but start putting that away now. Because when you're 65, 70 years old, do you really want to be going on the hunt of your life?
No. Do that before you're 50.
Yeah.
Do it before you're 40.
Yeah.
Shit,
I'm
about to let that boat sail. Shit.
I'm getting there myself, and I'm sitting here trying to plan a drop-off moose hunt in Alaska, where a plane drops us off with a raft. My buddy's got his rifle, I've got my bow, and we float and we look for moose.
See,
that's our plan.
Here's where I love that, where I don't even have to be the guy that's hunting. I just want to come along on that. Like, I'm just happy just being a part of that. Like I said, like, it's the teamwork. I'm just happy to be a third set of eyes, a second set of eyes. Exactly. To just be a part of the process. That, to me, that excites me so much. I love that. I guess I love being outdoors. I love being outside. Like, I am at the end of the day, I'm a modern day hippie. Let's be real. Like,
I'm there too, man.
I'm like,
give me a gummy.
Legit. Below my desk here, I'm in flip flops. Like, I'm freaking barefoot in flip flops all the time. I'm the guy that just wants to walk barefoot in the grass, literally stressing out. Like, just literally touching trees makes me feel better. Like, it's so hippy dippy, but damn it, man, there's a connection to earth. I'm a believer in grounding and feeling that in vortexes. Like, I've sat at the top of Mount Salmar in Cabo San Lucas, which is the highest point in the Baja Peninsula. You literally are overlooking Land's End, which from that point, tip of Cabo to Antarctica, there's not a single piece of land. It's crazy. Yeah. And that was, it's one of those vortexes. And I remember sitting on top of the mountain and just feeling just some power. I never wanted to leave. It felt so freaking cool.
I've been
very hippie. I'm sorry.
No. I'm there with you, dude. Like, give me a gummy, whatever. Like, I'm there with you.
Hell yeah. I'm about to go hit a D9 at this point, I think, and then go to bed.
There you go. But that's one thing that's amazing about where I live. Like, I've been to a very high ridge top and just overlooked, and you could see into two different states, and all you're looking at is peaks, the tops of peaks. Like, it gives me goosebumps thinking of that, and I've done it a ton of times.
You grew up with it, yeah.
I grew up with it, but that feeling and just like that view, you're just going, holy shit.
Yeah.
I can see forever, and I'm seeing these points, these ridge tops, and I'm overlooking country that probably has never in certain parts had a human foot touch to it. It is extremely surreal, and then you build a campfire, you sleep underneath a tree, you have these gorgeous stars come on top of you, and there's something about music with me and a lot of people too. There's that music connection.
Yeah.
I like clicking. I always keep like a battery operated radio with me. I don't know if it's the nostalgia or whatever, but it's what I grew up doing. My dad always had one, and you click it over to some AM stations and you start fishing through. I mean, at that elevation, some of the stuff that you pick up, like I'm picking stuff up down in Missouri. I'm picking stuff down up in Georgia. Like, it's
in the
so
radio
cool.
world, that's called DXing. That's what they're referring to as. You're DXing. It's because you're literally, we don't realize radio signal goes up and out and hits, like, goes down, right? But it also bounces. And when you're at that elevation, you can catch some of those bounces. Like here, having Lake Michigan, in certain times of the year, in certain spots, you can literally get stations from Michigan will DX, or they'll bounce over Lake Michigan and they'll cover up stuff in Wisconsin, vice versa. Wisconsin will bounce over into Michigan. So you get some of that out there.
Yeah, and a clear night.
And AM does it more than FM.
Exactly. That's one thing I was going to say. That's why I like doing AM instead of FM. You're getting a lot more of those. It's got to do with your bandwidth and all that stuff. You're very familiar with this.
You know my secret. I worked in broadcast media. Like radio was my past.
Yeah, and just, I don't know. It just sit back, take it in. Sitting on the national park, Yellowstone National Park border in early September, like sleeping in a root system of pine trees in the root system, and you're on the border and you're listening to bulls bugle all around you. Like that's just, there's nothing more real than that. And I always try and think back to who was like some of the first people that ever heard an elk bugle and identified that, like whether it was indigenous people or the quote unquote white man and stuff like that. But like, could you imagine not ever knowing what that sound was?
Right. That sounds
and hearing that, it'd be like, what in the hell? But like,
right.
The wonder and the way your wheels would turn and all these things, and then having a lightning storm roll in. Like, I've had that happen in the middle of all these elk bugling, and it's so surreal. And then you wake up like halfway through the night and there's a grizzly bear sniffing your head. Like, I've had that. I mean, I say how many people, which there's a good deal of people that have had that happen, but
I would have shit my pants, period.
Dude, I shit my own pants. Like, you find the middle
pants.
Yeah, you find the middle of your sleeping bag real quick. Not the far end, not the toe. You find the middle.
Yeah.
You get a little squeezy when like your toe sticks out of your covers in your bed, like going, oh no, that boogeyman might grab my toes. When an actual bear's going on your head, dude, wow. It'll get you going real quick. You've lived life at that moment.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned being in places where people have never stepped. That's one of the greatest parts. So I used to, and I'm sure I'll get up and start doing it again. I would host trips and essentially kind of like guest guide and host up in Canada on Lake of the Woods.
Yeah.
There are so many islands there. There's places that, like you said,
tons.
Human foot has never touched some of these islands, or if they have, it has been thousands and thousands of years. There's one spot that we found, and I the picture might be hard for you to see on here, but so this is what we call painted rock. It's an area that's very thin, narrow there, and I got to send you these pictures so you can see. This is hieroglyphics that were painted by natives. It's literally a picture of, it's like a figure with like horns above it. That we made out. It looks like a bison above, some sort of spear, and then there's like a big fish, which we're certain represents muskie. This was painted with bone marrow from sturgeons, and it's been there for thousands.
I was going to say muskie or sturgeon. I'm sure is what it is.
Sturgeon bone marrow painted this, and it's on the side of a bluff, and it's been there for thousands of years. And this bluff is like just angled enough where nothing has ever touched it. It is the most impressive and just goosebump hair standing stuff. Like we literally pulled our boat directly next to this and like touched our foot against the rock just to like be there and see it's that close. It was such a powerful moving thing. A couple years ago, I brought some other friends up with me, and I had them on my boat, and everybody's like heading back at the end of the last day, and I was like, I'll meet everybody at camp. I said, I'm gonna take these guys and show them Painted Rock, and I specifically like dodged around and took them right to Painted Rock to show them that.
Yeah,
like, this is one of the coolest damn things you will ever see up here, because like where else can you go and see like actual hieroglyphics painted by native people that have been there for thousands of years? It's such a cool thing, and there's a few of them up there, but that's like the best visual one that I found.
So we've got a few around here. I mean, of course, native culture is big out here in northwestern Wyoming, all that. So there's quite a few petroglyphs that you can go to and check out and stuff like that. But we've also got dinosaur tracks that you can go visit that are embedded in the ground, and you can go see the actual like footprints of these dinosaurs and stuff like that, are close to some of my hunting areas. But earlier I was talking about like on that park line, that national park line, sleeping underneath the trees and stuff. Well, that's very, very, very close to an old Indian camp that we called. And I shouldn't say this, but I know of I know of an individual that has found baby moccasins at this old Indian camp, and I have personally seen, plenty of like your arrowheads and all this other stuff. Like getting back to that, like our ancient history. Whether we share the same genealogy or not, like we still have the same ethos and the same kind of thought process and stuff like that as fishermen and outdoorsmen and all that stuff. But to physically sit in those places that somebody was so greatly impacted to make like an actual true camp that was there and established, or to paint rocks and to do pictures and stuff like that. Like there's something special about that place. I mean, we've up on the Bighorns right next to where I hunt, there's this place called the Medicine Wheel. Look into that. There's so much like history and unknown about that, even though it's been researched. Like there's tons of unknown about it. There's all these stories about the prior people, which are like these little tiny, for lack of a better term, like dwarves that'll go around and raise all this havoc, and all you got to do is leave out a little bit of tobacco or a little bit of coffee or something like that, so they don't, like, honestly, I've witnessed it happening. It gives you goosebumps. It freaks you the shit out. But like they'll steal stuff off of your side by side, your vehicles, whatever. Like, and you don't see it. Like it's crazy. So like honestly, when I go out in those places, yeah, I'll bring like a little cigar. Or I'll bring like a little baggie of tobacco, and I'll play in the mysteria of all of it. Like, what's it gonna hurt? Like, it's not gonna hurt nothing. Like, damn, who cares?
I love it. I love that. That's so interesting. Damn.
Come out, dude. Come out. Bring the whole family.
We have went down a hell of a rabbit hole. We will. I'm telling you now, it's gonna happen. We're gonna have that camper is gonna be the we're gonna travel the country and see a lot of shit. Like that's the other part.
I've got my camper. I'll show you the cool stuff. You want to see the most inland migration of the harlequin there is documented?
Oh, don't start saying Harleys to me now, because that's my last remaining bucket list. I've got to get a Barrows and a Harley. Barrows and Harleys, the only thing missing yet for me.
I still got to get my Barrows as well, and I got to get my Harley and all that stuff. But you want to see the most inland migration and the actual breeding of harlequin in the United States. It's right here, Yellowstone National Park. Actually, outside of Yellowstone National Park, I've I
you
came
guys are in a
really
flight.
close.
So, by the way, if you're listening or watching, we say Harleys. We're talking about Harlequin. Look at what a Harlequin duck is. It doesn't look
They're trying to
American.
rename it right now too.
Don't leave it. Well, it's kind of like how like old squaw here, long-tailed ducks. We've always called them old
Yes,
squaw. Now we have to
100%.
call them like, and I'm not for
It's
or against. This is not a side thing. I'm still like I grew up with them old squaw. I'm always gonna say old squaw
same here.
or old squaw. I mean long-tailed. That's probably how I say it. It's like Harlequin. Like it's gonna be a Harlequin. That's what I'm.
They're going to call it a blue duck now.
I mean, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's very blue.
But the reason why they're changing it is because somebody way back when may or may not have owned slaves at one point. So they kind of like, oh, we're not going to name something after them, even though they discovered this species of sea duck.
And it is one of the most beautiful species of sea duck. Like I will put it up there above king eiders. I will put it up there above. Like I've legit like that's the other thing. Like eiders, I've seen one eider in my life. Shit you not, on Lake Michigan. Like we occasionally will get them. I mean, from the Hudson, they'll make a mistake and catch the right wind, and they'll catch there.
Get caught in a storm.
Yep, I've seen one eider. I mean, it was way too far out. Like it was never, but like it was. I saw it in binoculars. Like holy, that's an eider. Like
I've had an eider in Wyoming and a long-tailed duck or old squaw in Wyoming too.
Yeah, we've shot tons of old squaw. I mean, there's tons of those out here.
See, that's I want an old squaw. So another segue of the hundreds that were going on right now. My duck dog, his name is Sprig.
Okay.
So I've got a fascination with pintails.
Yep.
And then you add the long tail in there. Oh, buddy, I've been trying to find the time, and it's hard being a guide and being booked out for 3 freaking years to try and make the time to go over where you guys are at to go chase old squaw out on, Great Lakes and all that stuff. Like that's something I've got to do. And I've got some buddies that can make it happen, but I'm a dumbass and I don't make it happen.
That's life. We're parents. We have children, we have families, we have obligations. We have, that's kind of the way things work. So.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to do this again. I'm so glad we got together. Like
you tell me when.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. This has already, I think, been the longest episode that we've done. So I don't want to go like too
we're just
far
dipping
here.
toes in.
And that's just it. Like let's just set it up. We're dipping toes. If you enjoy or want to get more about Western hunting, you can go check out Levi's podcast, the Western Territory podcast, of course, part of the Okayest podcast network. Or tune back in here. Eventually, we're gonna get on. Like I said, I'm just gonna continue to just grab Okayest Podcast Network hosts. I'm gonna have them on my show, and we're gonna talk about random shit, and then we're gonna promote their show, and that's just how this is gonna work. Like we went to talk about Western hunting. We've talked about duck hunting. We've talked about spiritual things. We've talked about painting
family matters.
Family matter. Like we have solved the world's problems here. That's what we do at camp. And
I'm only 4 beers. Well, 3 1/4 beers deep in. So
all right, I finished my 1.5 ounces of bourbon, and I'm not gonna lie, I still have a half of a Labatt that I started while I was.
Oh, there you go.
So I'll probably finish that and go to bed. I don't want to have any more bourbon, and I don't want to just dump the Labatt. But by the way, this is an underrated freaking beer. Labatt Blue.
Yeah, I love the shit out of Kokanee.
Oh, Kokanee's amazing. Kokanee
I love Kokanee.
That's probably that might be the best Canadian beer. But Labatt,
Labatt's
it's Canada's PBR.
I was gonna say Labatt's next at bat from Kokanee.
Really, we're this was revived for me. So my brother-in-law loves curling as much as I do, to the point where when
I wanted to get into curling so bad.
Oh, have you never done it?
No, I've never done it, but I watched it on the Olympics and I love it. And I think it's a severely underrated sport. Oh, okay. You're way cooler than me.
Yeah. I've been to the U.S. National Curling Championships, actually in person. I love curling.
Participated or spectated?
Watch.
Okay.
I have participated in curling, but the U.S. Nationals, no, I didn't compete.
Right. Okay.
I'm not even noob level at curling. I can do it. I can do it. We'll just put it that way.
It happened.
Right. I can throw the stone, curl it a bit. I can sweep, but beyond that, we're just going to leave it at that. And I would like, we've got a really prestigious curling club here. Like the city that I live in, the suburb, like I'm from Milwaukee. So the suburb actually I live in is Wauwatosa. So the Wauwatosa Curling Club is like a big, like actually prestigious curling club and great facility. If I didn't fish and do all the other shit that I do, I would actually like
pursue
and be curling as like my just, fun activity. But you've got to pick and choose. I've got too much other crap that I do.
dude.
Everyone's like, oh, do you golf? I'm like, no, I don't golf. I go fishing. Do I need another freaking expensive hobby? Like, look behind me. There's a wall full of crap that I will or will not use. Like, there's thousands of dollars in like, not to like, and you don't need any of this crap to get out and enjoy the outdoors. But that's my point. Like, I've got it. No, I don't need to take another sport on. Like,
we're all gear junkies, and we can all easily get just entrapped with who knows what hobby, right?
Yeah. Anyway, down that rabbit hole. So Canada hosts like a really big curling tournament every year. Why am I drawing a blank in the name of it? Maybe it's the bourbon that's got me. But my brother-in-law, like him and I got together, we literally sat down, like they live streamed this thing on YouTube. So like throughout the week we were watching it, but it got to like the championship round. Like we got together, we're sitting at his house watching this curling from Canada on YouTube, drinking Labatt's.
What? How could you drink an American beer while watching that?
Exactly. We polished off a Labatt, and then we had to then we had to send someone to get us some more beer, and the best we could come back with was Molson, and we're like, well, this is shit.
Yeah. I don't mind a Molson, but yeah.
After you go from Labatt to Molson, though, you're like,
maybe.
So now every now and then I'm like, I'm gonna stock a little Labatt in the fridge. Tonight I came down, I was like, well, I'm waiting to get started before we got on the show here, and I knew I had a bourbon to pour, but I was like, oh, start a Labatt just to get going.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, anyway. Man. Well, I'll have to return the favor, have you on the podcast and stuff too. I'll shoot you my schedule, and honestly, greatly appreciate you having me on. Yeah. I know it's just kind of one of those WhatsApp chain things that I'm terrible about. And I was like, hey, I need to contribute more to this conversation. Hey, have me. You want to talk about dumb, crazy stuff and
now
whatnot.
Now, Levi, you've gotten your experience at camp, and this is exactly what this show is, and this is what we do. It's no different than hanging around around a bonfire on a mountain, telling stories. That's at the end of the day, that's what this is, and that's because we're all just okay at everything.
Yeah. And that's exactly how I run my podcast and stuff too. It's that more campfire conversation, real open format, nothing scripted. In fact, a lot of times my guests, if I don't know them personally, I don't really look into them that far because I want you guys, the listeners, to hear what I'm hearing at the same time and having the same kind of influence and the same questions I feel like arise in my mind, even though it's a screwed up mind. But like we're on the same level and we're finding things out at the same pace and stuff like that. And then, if it comes to episode number 2 that we have those people on, we're still on the same page for the most part. So yeah, very, very similar format.
You get it, brother.
And I think it's the same. I mean, that's why we're all part of the Okayest Hunter Network. I mean, I know Eric and Greg from back when they were the Where to Hunt podcast and stuff like that. We've evolved. I used to be the Pull and Feathers podcast, and I mean, things have changed a lot, but it's all for the better, and we're all evolving together and growing. And I'm happy to have you part of the fold, and all of that. So
I'm glad to be a part. I used to have a different podcast show and radio show that was all over the state of Wisconsin. That did that, and that's how I really got to know Eric and Greg through that. And like the minute Greg and I met, instantly it was like we are the same person.
Greg's the shit, dude. Greg's awesome.
Honestly, like I would say one of my best friends. Like Greg is.
There's
a reason he's been on this show twice already now. He is, and I've said it all the time, and he's always going to shake it off and be like, meh. He's to me one of the
Greg,
nicest. Yeah. Right. He's so intelligent and knows so much. And he'll be like, well, I know a lot about little, but I'm, the jack of all trades, master of none. Yes, that is him. But he's a very intelligent, very nice, very giving, very just amazing.
Humble.
Yes. And that's what I say. And the most humble, of all of that. And
I do have to hold it against him though, because I think he's gone through my area twice now and not met me. So Greg, I'm sure you're listening to this. You're still on my shit list. I love the hell out of you, buddy. But you're on my shit list. Like I was shooting an archery event, and you drive within probably 2 miles of where I'm shooting an archery event, hanging out, and I've got a bottle of whiskey for you, Greg, and you don't stop in. So, love Greg. He's a great guy, but he's not that great of a guy if he won't stop in for a bottle of whiskey that I've got for him. I've got a bottle of Wyoming whiskey, for Greg, couple miles away, and he won't stop by. I got it. I see where I rank.
I felt like we were creating one of those professional wrestler like challenge moments there.
Oh, let's go. Like I said at the very, very beginning of this podcast, I grew up a wrestler. Let's go. I'll throw down.
I love it. Hey, thanks, Levi. Appreciate it. You go check out Western Territory Podcast, part of the Okayest Podcast Network. Go check out again. Don't sleep on following Camp Okayest on any of the socials. Again, make sure you're watching the YouTube stream. Subscribe to us. We want to hit that subscriber count, and I feel like one of those typical people. Follow. We want to make this a live thing, so we can all live hang out, and you can drop comments, and we can legit make this like a fun hangout where you could be watching this and literally dropping comments, talking to the two of us, and we can all interact together, because that's what it is. It's about open up stools at camp and just hanging out. So we appreciate you listening. Appreciate you following along. Like I said, go check out Levi and his podcast. And next week, we will drink Greg's bottle of bourbon. Sound good?
Okay. I see how it is. He'll get a bottle of bourbon for you, but won't stop by for mine.
Whatever you have, the bottle of whiskey. One that he wouldn't get from you, I'm going to get from you. We're going to drink it here on this show next week.
All right.